Einstein once said that only a life lived for others is worth living. In these adverse times, the bright spot is how volunteers across the world have been giving their best to the society. But with the scare of COVID-19, volunteering on ground comes with a lot of risk of infection. So you ask yourself, what can I do here sitting at home? The answer is Chezuba, a global online volunteering platform founded by Sukhendra Reddy, an ex-IITian. We have Sukhendra Reddy with us here today. And welcome, Sukhendra. Tell us more how, when, and where, and why did you start this organization?
Hi, Arishi. Good day to you. Good day to Sunil, who's also on the call. The story starts back when I was in IIT. It was during my first year. I was 18 or 19 years old. I got an opportunity to volunteer in Malaysia. That's where I was introduced to the world of volunteering, and that was the most pleasurable experience. So I wanted it to happen to many others. I wanted individuals, particularly those from IIT who are fairly privileged, to give back to the society. So I came back to IIT. I started ISEC in IIT Dhanbad, which is a student body, which facilitates people to volunteer abroad as well as bring foreigners to volunteer in remote India. So at peak, we facilitated more than 100 people to volunteer in different parts of the world. Then, life hits, corporate life hits you. I was working for a startup in Russia. Then I moved to Taiwan, was working for a gaming company. And around 2017, I was back in India to work for a tech startup. And that's when, during backpacking, I realized that, this is my passion. Volunteering is the area which I'm really connected to, giving back to the society. But I realized myself that in spite of me being a very active volunteer during my student times, I couldn't replicate the same once regular life hits you. So, in these times when a pizza gets delivered in 20 odd minutes, you can date online. I find it extremely baffling that to make impact, people still struggle. They don't know of the opportunities. Even if they do, then they have time constraints, location constraints, so on and so forth. So that's where the idea of online volunteering struck me. Wanted to use leverage internet and technology to create impact. So October 19th, 2017 was the day I decided that I'll start this up. Spoke to some close friends of mine, one also a friend of mine at IIT. We used to work at ISEC together. We used to represent Jharkhand for our squash team. So very good friend of mine. Adela was my neighbor back when I was living in Taiwan. So good friends, spoke a lot about philosophy, impact and stuff. So, roped her in as well. And I had a childhood friend who was working for Amazon in Seattle. So I asked him to build a small prototype for me, took the prototype, went to my ex-bosses, ex-colleagues, raised a bit of money. And March 2018, we launched the product of online volunteering. And in less than a week's time, we had users from 50 countries using the platform, signing up to become online volunteers. And that gave us enough proof of traction that, okay, the world needs this idea. Since then, we've been working hard on this, and it's been a couple of years. And we currently associate closely with about 3,200 odd NGOs from 38 countries, and more than 65,000 odd volunteers from 100 countries use our platform.
The current time when there is a complete lockdown across the world, are you seeing more traction? More people? People coming forward and offering their services.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think people's best is seen during their worst. So I think when we look back right now, the spike that we have seen in terms of traction, it's been 3x, 4x day by day. More and more people are volunteering each day. About 200 to 300 people sign up to volunteer. Likewise, a lot of nonprofits, they were never prepared for this, right? Nonprofits, when you think of them, traditional organizations on ground, grassroots level. So they're used to going to the fields and working there. So they're not prepared for this. In spite of them maybe having the infrastructure and technology, many times they're not prepared for this. So a lot of nonprofits come to us and ask, how do I cope up with this? Hopefully by April 14, things will get better. But we still don't know. Now is the right time. Nonprofits are also seeing the need to leverage technology. So a lot of nonprofits come to us as well and help us go online. right? So a lot of them feel the need to have a website, to have a social media presence, to use software and tools which will enable them to work remotely and be productive. So on both sides, we have seen a bit of an exaggerated traction, I would say. Definitely. And as much as I do not like whatever is happening right now, whole world, it's not good for anyone. But having said that, I do see a positive light in it, that so many people are coming forward to now create impact.
Are you facing any challenge in being able to deploy the number of people, or at least getting the connect done between people who are volunteering to the work which is available out there?
Oh, I would say to a certain extent, we are prepared for this, because this is what we do for our bread and butter, right? We are an online volunteering platform. But what we have seen on a positive side is a lot more creativity coming from both individuals. So we also ask volunteers when they sign up, like, okay, do you want to do something, but you don't find anything relevant? Let's say the most common projects that we have on our platform are something related to social media, maybe graphic designing, content writing, IT support. Like, okay, you don't want any of this, can you suggest something creative? And we see a lot of inputs coming from the volunteers themselves as to what they would like to do, as well as on the nonprofit side as well. Those working maybe on the healthcare side, education side. For example, one of the most creative projects that we've seen recently is schools being shut, orphanages, for instance. The students they learn English, but they don't speak English as such. So they're also leveraging this, that British, UK is in lockdown right now, so the British volunteers coming, like, okay, we kind of connect this British young person to students from an orphanage in India, and they can both be, for a psychological part of it, that they have this friendship blooming, but beyond that, they also get to practice English, and there is a long-term impact as well. So there is a lot of creativity coming in, which does help us. But from our team's perspective, we have been prepared for this. The challenge is more on the resources part of it, because we're not prepared for this exaggerated reaction. And recently, we got featured in Forbes 30 under 30. That also got in a lot of PR, and a lot of nonprofits and volunteers also coming in. So it's more than anything else, from a tech and human resource point of view, we are not really prepared for this. So we're putting in overtime. We now work 6 days a week, extending our work hours and stuff. Everyone's giving their best to ensure that we help as many as possible. But there has been no big challenge in terms of people not understanding, at least on the volunteer side. Nonprofits were not ready for it, but we are working our best to ensure that the readiness is as soon as possible.
Many congratulations on being featured for the Forbes 30 under 30. The current experience, how will that help you, redraw your strategy going forward, or what are you going to do? Have you thought of three, 4 points that you would implement to make your platform ready for any other eventuality? We don't pray, hope something like this doesn't come ever, but then for any other eventuality.
Absolutely. See, we always consider ourselves as a technology platform, but the sad truth or reality of nonprofits is most of the nonprofits out there, we work with nonprofits in 38 countries, predominantly India and Africa, but most of them, no matter whether they belong to a developed country or a developing nation or an underdeveloped nation, most of the nonprofits are not tech savvy. So, the general rule of business is you've got the client is the king, right? You've got to adapt to the client. So all these days we have been, as much as we are balancing our technology, we have been mostly service oriented, I would say, trying to adapt to what the nonprofits need, trying to put a lot more human efforts into it, humanizing the whole process. But what we realize is maybe one of the things that I would change in retrospection is, had we put in more effort into our technology, we would have probably been in a position to enable support for a lot more organizations than what we are now. So I think one of the things that we are doing in rapid, I would say more like a rapid change, is invest heavily into the technology side of it, make technology even more friendlier so that the nonprofits can be prepared for it. But as Henry Ford says, right, if you ask my customer what he wants, he would say maybe a faster cart and not a car. So we got to show what the future is to these nonprofits, in spite of them being maybe myopic. We have to show to them that this is the world, this is the future, and we got to adapt them to this situation as well, because change cannot be done by one person or one organization. So I think our job here is to ensure to spread the awareness in terms of what technology can do, and we will try to reach as many nonprofits as possible, and make this technology be accessible to as many as possible, so that it becomes a new norm, so that in future of any pandemic or any kind of disaster, I think we would be more prepared as a society, as a community, to tackle this.
So, coming to the technology, you've been talking about technology. What kind of features you intend to add to your existing platform?
So as of now, ours is more like a marketplace model, right? There's a two-side platform. One is the nonprofits, one is the skilled professionals. So there are about 10 million registered nonprofits worldwide, and there are 7 billion people, out of which at least 3 billion have access to the internet. So clearly there is a huge mismatch in terms of number of people who want to make impact, a number of organizations which need support. So on the volunteer side, we always have bigger numbers. Contrary to what people think, there are more people who want to do impact than there are opportunities that they can actually find. So the truth is, there is never going to be a dearth of resources in terms of human resources that people want to help. So the supply side or the non-profit side is what we're trying to sort out as much as we can. So at this point in time, whenever a non-profit creates an online volunteering project, about 3 people apply to that project. But most of the times, let's say the nonprofit says, I need a new website to be designed or some changes to be done on my existing website. The nonprofit is not prepared. Let's say there's an A, B, C, 3 applicants applying. The nonprofit doesn't know who is actually the right applicant. All of them say software engineers. One says Java, one says Oracle. Lab, no clue what this is about. So the nonprofit is a little confused, and they'll bring in their subjective biases, right? Okay, this guy seems 8 years experience. Maybe he does better, in spite of maybe that person never having developed a website before. So one thing we are doing is we're building an algorithm which will also be able to assist these nonprofits in, okay, A, B, C have applied, but A is maybe 73% more likely to complete this project because of his past experiences, but B, according to our keyword search, says that B is more skillful to take up this project compared to C, so on. So we're going to educate our nonprofits in making better decisions in choosing the volunteers. We're having our technology integrations in terms of chat and chatbot, so that the communication becomes audio calls, video calls. They don't need to share. Data protection becomes very important. They don't need to share their contact numbers and stuff, whether nonprofits or volunteers. The communication can happen through the platform, and all the information that they share. Some of the common projects that are posted are annual report making. So they're sharing a lot of confidential information. So again, that information as well goes securely through the platform. So there's a lot that we're working on that part. Of course, we're going to go mobile as well. Obviously the world's going towards mobile. That's one area as well. And in terms of corporates, that's another avenue that we work. We also work with a lot of corporates, NASCOM, Cognizant, Tata Group, to name a few. RBL, RPG Group are in the pipeline as well. So there's some big corporates that engage with us. They want their employees to volunteer through our online volunteering platform. So we have also seen a triggered usage from the corporate side. We've been receiving a lot of incoming requests because they also see this as a good way to engage their employees. Particularly, a lot of employees might be having psychological issues and so on, staying indoors. So we also see more of a software as a service model for corporates as well, so that we can have customized online volunteering opportunities for their employees, dashboards to kind of give indication as to how many volunteering hours were clocked, what is the impact being created. Impact measurement is something that we are doing from a product level as well. And of course, for the nonprofits, most of them, they know, okay, I need some changes on my website, but they don't know how to articulate it. So we're also making a product which is already in place, where they can just choose. It would be very simple user interface, as in, okay, what do you want? IT support. Is it building a website or creating a mobile app or changes on the existing website? So it's all clicks of a button. And within 4 or 5 clicks, they get a complete project that they wish to have, and they can just publish it. So they don't need to have content writing skills for the same as well. So these are the immediate changes that we are bringing onto our platform. But on a long term, we do have many more options as well, in terms of we are building a community around this, particularly in such a situation in COVID. Of course, we are facilitating a lot of people to volunteer online, but we also know we could do a lot more than what we are doing right now. So we're building our community interface where people can connect to each other based on their interests, like what causes do they care for. So those interested into healthcare and those who are healthcare professionals, think of it like a Reddit or a LinkedIn, where we are trying to group people based on the causes that they care for and the skills that they can cater with, and we will facilitate more mass volunteering projects as well in the future.
In specific to Corona experience, what have you learned from the current experience that you need to immediately on war footing, need to make changes to your organization, the way it works? What are you going to do in the short term?
I think this learning is not my exclusive learning. I think almost every startup in the world has this learning, which is cash is king, right? We are predicting zero revenues. In fact, we have stopped charging nonprofits to an extent, unless and until the nonprofit does have enough money. But most nonprofits right now are also struggling for cash, right? So instead of, our revenue model is actually such that the nonprofits pay us a small subscription fee, an annual subscription fee. So instead of focusing on revenue from nonprofits, we've kind of made it almost completely free for nonprofits. So a majority of the nonprofits can make use of our technology and can make use of this solution during this crisis. So now we know like our revenues could take even further a hit in the next couple of quarters, if not more. So we are figuring out alternate revenue models. So the corporates that are coming in have become our biggest source of revenue right now. So that's what our learning, as well as maybe other startups as well. You kind of explore and figure out alternate revenue streams. Because cash is king, you got to build yourself a better runway. So one of the first things that we did is discuss this with the team, be as transparent as possible as founders, let everyone know how much runway we got in the bank and what is our plan of action to extend the runway. So all of us have taken cut. Some of us have been volunteering to take the cut more than what is being proposed. So we've extended our runway by taking those cuts in spite of what the government or anyone says. This is inevitable, right? I mean, there's no revenue coming, so you have to figure out your own ways. But the team has been the biggest strength for us. And what we also realize is the crisis has brought us even more closer, in spite of, it might sound like a paradox, right? Like we're working farther, not from an office, but I think we've got even more closer. We engage a lot with each other during lunches. We get to know each other's families better and stuff. So I think one of the things that we learned is to be a lot more human in this whole process. And the leadership has also been more around human driven rather than being more strategic. And I think that is what has defended us even in this crisis. And in fact, we are on a huge growth curve right now because of the demand, of course. But we believe that we will sustain this and in fact come out much stronger than what we were before, both from a cultural team perspective, but also from a financial perspective, given the fact that we are exploring our alternate revenue models, which seem quite bright.
Great. What kind of fees do the NGOs have to pay to register with you?
So we have offerings on several, subscription models as to how much of a service do they need. Do they need us to also act as project specialist? Do they also need more like consultancy in terms of how do we think to make them better? Do they need support in screening of these volunteers as well? So on an average, NGOs pay a subscription fee of either $99 or $149. Also, it kind of depends on which country the NGO comes from for obvious reasons, purchasing power parity and all. So that's the fee that they would pay for an entire year, during which they can ask for any number of volunteers across any number of skill sets. So to think of it, an NGO can pay $99 and get changes on their website done, get their social media handle, get graphics design, get content written, literally anything and everything that can be done online. They can just get this stuff done through volunteers for an entire year.
And Sukhendra, do volunteers also get some kind of a certificate after they are done volunteering with you?
Absolutely. In fact, every volunteer who completes a project will have to rate and review the NGO. Likewise, the nonprofit will also rate and review the volunteer. So a volunteer gets an auto-generated certificate with a unique code, which is digitally available, just in case these volunteers want to show it to their employers, or schools, or just show off as well. They've done some good. It's time to just show off. So they do get these digital certificates, but in the future, we're also planning a lot more reward mechanisms, maybe tie up with few corporates, think of it as shopping vouchers or, cinema tickets or something like that, if you kind of can complete a volunteering project, because I think the good needs to be appreciated so that they would do more good. It's not a thing that, okay, they do good so they get paid for it. Instead, we want to put it as more as an appreciation and a reward as opposed to a stipend or a salary.
You said there has been a huge demand spike. Can you quantify it in terms of percentages? What has been the spike?
I can give you numbers in terms of our organic search. We used to have about 100 odd people searching us organically each day. That's kind of gone up to close to 300 right now. So the user base as well, in general, I think has been like twice or thrice more, depends on what the KPI is. But the volunteering applications have also kind of more than doubled up each day. But more importantly, the engagement. So the bounce rates have come down. People spending a lot more time on the website. They're exploring a lot more projects before taking a decision as to which one they would. It's not quick decision. So the average pages that people look at has also gone up to more than 6 right now. So to think of it, they're probably exploring 3-4 projects before choosing which one they want to do, as opposed to previously they would just select a project and it's like, okay, I'll just click on apply. So the engagement has been a lot more active, if I have to put it that way.
So that's really good that you're talking about almost 200% jump in your search. Can you also share with us important data points like the age profile, gender profile, what areas they're coming from, both within India and across the globe? That will help in understanding what kind of trend has been towards this crisis.
Yeah, always. I mean, even before the crisis, people who are age less than 21 are heavily into volunteering. Our hypothesis is that they do not have a lot of opportunities outside, and maybe they do have a more free time than more middle-aged people. And women have always been on the forefront. The split has been more like 65-35. Again, like our hypothesis that women are nicer in general, I guess. I think they have a kind of heart, probably, if I'm not sounding too gender specific here. But beyond that, I think it's also very safe for a lot of women, right, to volunteer without having to go anywhere. Probably gives them that sense of safety and security. So previously, if they had to go to some slum places, maybe they would probably feel a little unsafe. So it's more like, I don't need to travel anywhere, I can make impact from home. So women has always been on the forefront. But since the COVID crisis, it's been more of an equal split. We've seen a huge spike in age groups from 24 to 31, 32. Probably the working class is coming online to create impact right now. So they're spending a lot more time, given that most of them are working from home. And the gender ratio has been fairly equal, which is how it is in the world. So it's been split that way. I would say it's 51-49 still women. Is
there any particular specific stream or field where there's a huge demand? I mean, or people are offering their services?
So previously, traditionally, content writing and social media has been the strength, because that's not super heavily skilled. So a lot of people can take up these social media and content writing projects is what they also felt. But since the crisis, a lot of IT people are taking up. So the website projects are getting matched heavily. A lot of IT people are showing interest, and any creative project that comes in, something like online education, online teaching, mentoring and stuff, that has also seen exaggerated interest.
Thank you, Sukhendra, for taking out time for being with us, and Chezuba.
Pleasure is mine, Chezuba as well.
Thank you, Sukhendra. It was nice talking to you, and we hope through this program we are able to connect more volunteers to your platform, and also we become a bridge between you, NGOs, and the volunteers. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks a lot, Sunil. Keep up the awesome work as well. I think more startups need your support as well. So really, really happy with what you guys are doing.